Hello, good afternoon and welcome everyone. Today we will travel to Florida Keys and Key West together with Fenella Toby, Florida Keys account manager. Welcome Fenella, please share your screen.
Thank you so much. Okay, give me 1 second.
Yeah.
Right, hopefully everybody can see a beautiful big welcome sign now for the Florida Keys. So firstly, thank you so much everybody for joining us today. I know I can't see you, so I'm trusting that you're all there, but thank you very much for having me. I'm going to keep it quite short and sweet as I know it's Friday afternoon and I won't keep you for too long. But yes, so welcome to the Florida Keys. The first picture, the thing you need to know is this is why people come to the Florida Keys, is to experience fantastic overseas highway. But I'll start things off. So the Keys consist of hundreds of islands, large and small, and they lie at the southernmost tip of Florida. In about an hour, you can drive from Miami International Airport to Key Largo, the northernmost island of the Keys. The 200-kilometer-long overseas highway, which the picture you saw in the first slide, connects Isla Mirada, Marathon, Big Pine and the Lower Keys, and Key West. Now, the weather is wonderful almost all of the time, with summer highs averaging 31 degrees, and the winters are dry. The peak times are usually from November through to February. As you can imagine, lots of families come when their kids are on holidays, and then also good times for people without children, usually from April to early June. But again, as I said, it's beautiful pretty much all year round. So I know this doesn't particularly apply to you guys, as you don't have any direct flights from Italy to Miami, but as I've spoken to some Italians before, a lot of people do connect via the UK. And if you were to do that, we have direct flights with British Airways, Virgin Atlantic, Norwegian Air, and then if you went via Ireland, Aer Lingus. But the key things to note are that you fly direct into Miami, wherever you're coming from, and that is when you would pick up your rental car and drive down through the Keys. Now, from Miami to Key Largo, which is our northernmost island, it is only an hour. So you don't have to spend hours in the car once you arrive in the US, which is a good point to note. Now, I'd like to include this slide so that you can see many people, many customers like to do twin center holidays, and that is very possible for Key West. So a good thing to note is that it actually has its own airport down in the bottom in Key West. It's very small, but that means that people can be on the beach up to an hour before their flight. And then it literally takes them about 40 minutes, to get through security, no time at all. So they can be all sandy with it up to an hour before they fly, and then fly out via Dallas, Chicago, Atlanta. One of our newest direct flights is actually to New York. So that's kind of opened up another wonderful aspect of Twin Center holidays between New York and Key West. You can really create some very original itineraries that way. But a good thing also to consider is that if you have people flying in from other destinations in the US into Key West, you can always do the Florida Keys kind of in the different direction. So you don't have to do it one way. You don't have to come in via Miami and go down. You can also fly into Key West and go back up. So there's always that flexibility. You don't have to drive down one way, turn around and go back. If you want to fly in one direction and fly out the other, that's totally possible. Now, as you drive down through the Keys, you will always know where you are by the mile markers. As you can see here, you've got mile 110, 105. Now, these numbers on the side of the highway are also attached to any hotel or attraction's address. So whenever you kind of find the address of a place you want to go, it'll have a mile marker attached to it. Obviously, there's only one way into the Keys and one way out, so you can't get lost. And you just look out for the big mile marker sign that you need and just turn off there. So it's very easy to navigate. It's not going to be a stress for anybody driving. Now, our first and northernmost island, as I said, is Key Largo, and this is known as the dive capital of the world. So it is the first stop down on the overseas highway, and it is home to the second largest Great Barrier Reef. Now, the John Pennekamp State Park is America's oldest marine preservation. You will find many coral reefs, seagrass fields, and mangrove forests here. There are 600 species of fish and 55 species of coral here as well. So the living reefs of Key Largo are very popular with divers. In addition to diving, you can snorkel, kayak, walk, go on fantastic hikes, have picnics on the beach as well. And also worth noting is off the coast of Key Largo, you are several shipwrecks, so including the American naval shipwreck, Spiegel Grove. Now, this is one of the largest ships ever sunk to make an artificial reef, and it lies almost 40 meters deep at the beginning of the 160-kilometer long shipwreck trail, along which are numerous war and cargo ships which lie on the seabed. So even if you have someone wanting to travel but they're a novice, or they're a very experienced diver, there will be shipwrecks and diving spots for everybody. So nobody is left out, and they are at varying depths. So some are easy and some are hard, but it's also great to know that obviously coral reefs now are undergoing a lot of pressure from kind of global warming, and not to mention ourselves and the damage that humans do. But the artificial reefs are really helping the conservation and the preservation of the marine life around this area. So they're a wonderful thing to go and visit and support. Now, also worth noting is we have the gateway to the Everglades National Park off Key Largo. So this is where it starts. And this is also where the fresh water of the Everglades meets the salt water of the Florida Bay. So in this picture here, where you can see the water going cloudy, that is where the fresh water is meeting the salt water. Now, a fun fact, or maybe a little bit of a scary fact, is it's the only place up in the Everglades where you can find both a crocodile and an alligator, because normally they live in completely different water types. But because this is where they meet, it's the only place in the world where they can coexist. I don't know how friendly they coexist, but they do. So you can see you've got some fantastic kayaking opportunities here, perhaps only for the brave. But you've also got hovercraft adventures and things like that that you can do. Now, also worth noting is that, I don't know, many of you might be film buffs and you may recognize the African Queen. Now, this is the same boat that was used in the film of the same name, African Queen, with Humphrey Bogart and Katharine Hepburn in 1951. Now, the African Queen, the little boat, is kept in Key Largo and she's available for day trips. So you can take her up into the Everglades, or the backcountry as it's known, and they can go for an hour and a half or a whole half-day trip, depending on what your customers would like to do. And also a good thing to bear in mind, some people say or worry they don't have enough time to do the whole of the Keys, but they would like to fit it in somehow. Well, you can always recommend that they do a day trip like this in Key Largo, because as I said before, Key Largo is only an hour from Miami, so it's very easy to fit it into an itinerary, but just something to bear in mind. Now, there are some beautiful bayside resorts in this area, including the Bayside Inn, the Marriott Beach Resort, and the Seafarer. As you can see, it's this lovely, clear, turquoisey water and white sandy beaches. Now, ones to think about recently are the bungalows at Key Largo. It's a great one for romantic getaways. It's an adult-only hotel. It's all-inclusive, and it opened in December 2019. So realistically, it's not had any international visitors yet. Obviously, it's been tested well by the domestic market, which has luckily been able to keep all these hotels going. But international-wise, obviously because of the pandemic, we haven't been able to travel there, but it's a great new resort to bear in mind, and it benefits from both waterfront and garden views. Now, our next stop down the overseas highway is Isla Morada. Now, Key Largo was all about the diving, but Isla Morada is all about the sport fishing, and it is known as the sport fishing capital of the world. Now, here people come from miles around to fish marlin in the depths of the Atlantic Ocean, or hunt pike and tarpon in the shallow waters around Florida Bay. So as you can see, you've got the shallow kind of flat bottom boat version of fishing as well. Now, I don't know about Italy so much, but in the UK, fishing is not a very sexy sport. So some of our customers have to be really convinced to go fishing. But in the Florida Keys, it's definitely a way of life. It's fantastic fun. You've got glorious sunshine. You can have your beers cooling in the back, and you'll have music blaring, depending if you're doing the Atlantic fishing. Obviously, in the backcountry fishing, things are a bit more relaxed. You've got a fishing rod in one hand, you can be reading a book in the other, listening to some chilled music. But it's definitely something we always recommend customers to go and try, and Islamorada is the place to do it. Now, another great thing we always encourage people to stop off at is Robbie's Marina. Now here you can feed the giant tarpon. Now it sounds like a kind of an odd activity that we encourage people to go do, but everybody always really enjoys it. So in the bottom of the picture, you can see these giant fish. Now these are the tarpon, but they're known as the silver kings. Now I actually have to say this picture doesn't do them justice because they are huge. But what you do is you go to Robbie's Marina, you buy a bucket of fish and you dangle yourself over the pontoon. And these giant silver kings, they jump out of the water at you and they grab the fish from you and they shimmer in the sunshine. And it just turns into an awesome little frenzy. But you have to watch out because you can see in the picture, you've got the pelicans. Now they are very greedy. So it turns into a bit of a competition, but everyone enjoys it, whether you're just a couple on your way down to Key West or you're a whole family. It's really worth the stop off. And also at Robbie's Marina, you have a fantastic little restaurant which serves great cocktails and obviously fantastically fresh seafood. And around here as well, you have some really lovely arts and crafts. So in Islamorada, this is the place where you recommend people to stop off and pick up a souvenir, or if they want a bit of memorabilia to take home. There are some really great boutique shops and artsy, crafty kind of places. The Redbone Gallery is a favourite of visitors, just to kind of keep a note there. Now, in terms of accommodation around here, you have more of the charming beachfront lodging. So you've got some little backfront lodges as well, and here visitors can get a bit more of an independent and private feel during their stay. Now, Chica Lodge is very popular in this area, and they are a hotel, but they also have the casitas at Chica, which are a private self-catered accommodation. So they, therefore, obviously post-pandemic, some people might be a bit more nervous of traveling to go stay in hotels, but here they can go and be a part of Chica Lodge, part of the hotel, but be in their own casita. So they can mix with other people as little or as much as they like, as they have, they can use all the same amenities as somebody staying in the actual hotel, but they could be staying in their little own lodge, if you like. But it's just worth noting, as I know there has definitely been a spike of people inquiring after self-catered accommodation or separate lodgings and that kind of thing. So Islands of Islamorada are also another kind of variant which you can push to your customers. So it's very new, it's very popular. There are 22 waterfront villas available, as well as 8 private one-bed suites. So they operate like individual villas, but they have their own restaurants and kind of communal areas that people can choose to go to. And it's all within the price. So you'll pay for your villa, but you'll be able to use the pools and the restaurants within that. And you can choose to interact with people as little or as much as you want. And that was Islands of Islamorada. Now we're about halfway down to the Keys now, and we've made it to Marathon. Now this is more of a little quieter oasis when you got halfway down. It was a little fishing village back in the 1800s, and fishing, as for all of the Keys, still remains a massive part of life down in the Florida Keys. There are some fantastic family resorts down here as well. And I'll go back to Pigeon Key, but I'll talk about, oh no, hang on, I'm skipping ahead. We'll go backwards. So talking about the sort of family resorts, I think I've got a slide later, but I'll talk about it now. Isla Bella is one of the newest ones, and it has a whole mile of private beachfront property, which is fantastic, but it's definitely worth checking out. That's Isla Bella, but great for kind of families and a lovely vacation spot in Marathon. Now, in terms of things to do in Marathon, you've got Pigeon Key. Now, we always encourage people to stop off here if they'd like to experience a bit more of history or a bit of culture. Pigeon Key used to be where the railroad workers that built Henry Flagler Railroad used to live. Now, the Henry Flagler Railroad used to be the only way that people could get from the mainland to Key West. So there is a lot of history here. There's a lot of special artifacts in the museum. You can really kind of have a sort of spy into how they used to live and how the railroad was built. Obviously, the railroad then over time was turned into a highway. and the 7 Mile Bridge. And now we also have the Overseas Highway, which is the fantastic now 200-kilometre long bridge that gets us from island to island. But it's a wonderful place to stop off. You can have lunch here, you could spend half an hour, or a whole afternoon, depending. Now, also in and around Marathon, we have the Turtle Hospital. Now, I don't know about you guys, but everybody loves turtles that I speak to. They are so cute, they're so harmless, and it's a wonderful place to go visit. So the Turtle Hospital operates exactly like a human hospital. Anytime a turtle is injured or needs to be rehabilitated, it'll go to Turtle Hospital and get made better. As you can see, he's got his nice little bandage on. And the wonderful full circle thing at Turtle Hospital is that when a turtle is ready to be released back into the ocean, they will put a notice up on the local board, and anyone who is in the area at that time, whether it be a local or a tourist, they are invited to come down to the beach and witness the turtle kind of waddle back to his home. Now, I feel everyone gets incredibly excited when this happens and they want to be a part of it, so they rush down to the beach so they don't miss out. But it's important to remember that turtles move very slowly, so they won't miss out. Even if they're 10 minutes late, half an hour late, he still only made it 2 meters down the beach. But it's a lovely full circle event to kind of be a part of, if you will. Now, in a similar vein, we've got the Dolphin Research Centre. Now, this is a non-for-profit charity set up to help and protect injured dolphins, or those that can't be released back into the wild. Here, people can learn all about dolphins' environment and their behaviour. And the dolphins live peacefully in these large lagoons. They're very friendly and like to get up close and personal with visitors, but there is no organised activity. It is purely they can do what they like, and if they wish to interact, they will do. But it's a wonderful place for children and obviously anyone that's interested in marine life to go and visit. And again, we've also got the Florida Keys Aquarium Encounter, which is committed to providing the public with access to unique marine environments. They really want to inspire the development of more passionate marine conservationists. So as I spoke about before, we have the second largest Great Barrier Reef here, and it's really important to the Florida Keys locals that we all grow up learning how to look after it and how we can preserve it at its best. Now, the entire park is set up as an interactive learning centre, serving to educate its visitors on the unique Florida Keys marine environment and create a better understanding of the conservation needed. So if you do have families wanting to visit and wanting to know where's a good place to take my kids, this is definitely an educational but obviously fascinating and fun place to take them. Now, I've probably mentioned it, but obviously fishing takes such a large part of is such a large part of the life down here that you can imagine the seafood is amazing. So because the waters are so warm, we attract a real variety of fantastic fish. And there is such, what am I trying to say? Fishing is such a big part of life down there that you yourself as a visitor can go and take part and go fishing, and you can take whatever you catch to many of the restaurants and they will cook it up for you. But again, we have such variety down there. So it is, if people love seafood, this is definitely a place to point them in the right direction. And again, family resorts in this area. As I mentioned, we have the Isla Bella, which is a new one here. But this also just gives you a flavour of what some of the accommodation looks like in the Florida Keys. Now we're moving down to Big Pine and the Lower Keys. Now, I like to include this map because you can see a bit more of the lush green on this map here. And also you can see that it's really broken up. It's not one solid island. You've got lots of little ones, and some of them are close enough that you can walk between and others are a bit further apart. Now, Bahia Honda State Park is a great place for picnics and relaxing on the beach, and you can enjoy some really beautiful sunsets here. It has actually been voted one of America's most beautiful beaches. But it is a whole state park, and there are some fantastic recreational areas here as well. So if people want to camp or they've got RVs, this is a place that they can go. Oh, but just look at that water. I wish I was there, but it's absolutely beautiful. And we also have the Great White Heron National Wildlife Refuge. Now, this is the second only place in Florida that the Great White Heron lives. And I'm very sorry, I haven't got a picture of him in this picture. It's a complete oversight on my part, but I just loved this image of the shallow waters. And as you can see, you can really walk between island and island. And it's good to note, if anyone doesn't like swimming or kayaking in deep water, this is a good place to send them, because if they fall out, there's not far for them to go. But as you can see, you've just got vast stretches of shallow water and beautiful blue skies. And of course, the bird is the great white heron is the largest wading bird in North America. And this is one of the only 2 places it can be found. So it's a wonderful place to go and explore. You wouldn't necessarily go and stay in the Lower Keys. I would stay the night before in Marathon and then spend the day in the Lower Keys the next day. Or you stay in Key West and then you travel back up for a morning or an afternoon to kind of go and explore this area. Again, this is just a beautiful picture of a Sunday picnic. They've just kind of moored their boat on the middle of the sandbank. So this is kind of the thing that you can expect in the Keys, just vast blues everywhere and lots of little dotted islands. Now we've also got the Key Deer Refuge, or the National Key Deer Refuge, I should say. So this picture is a little bit misleading, but the key deer are incredibly cute. They're only 2.5 feet tall. So they look a bit bigger here, but they're so sweet. They roam around very freely around this area. They're local, they're indigenous to the Keys. You won't find them anywhere else. The fun fact is they love to swim. So you'll be relaxing on the beach one moment, and then suddenly these deer will appear out of the water and kind of come join you and see if they can sneak a sandwich. But they're incredibly lovely, and they roam freely around this refuge. And you'll also find more than 20 rare plant and animal species, of which the key deer is one in this area. So it's wonderful to kind of explore and go walking around this area as well. And in terms of, I know I mentioned before in Bahia Honda State Park, you've got sort of recreational areas and RVs. Included a picture just to show you what I was talking about. But again, I'm so jealous of that sunshine, and I kind of want that barbecue. Okay, now in other accommodation news, around this area there is a fantastic private island resort called Little Palm Island, which is just off Torch Key. So it's one of the smaller islands, and it is the only private resort in the US. It was refurbed after Hurricane Irma in 2020, so it is looking and feeling even more luxurious than ever. But of course, the Keys were quite unlucky. We got hit by Hurricane Irma a couple of years just before the pandemic hit. And then obviously everything got up and running and looking spectacular. And we were hit with coronavirus. So these hotels, many of them have all had a full refurbishment, are looking gloriously luxurious, and are just waiting for international travelers to come and check them out, really. But again, if you've got any customers that are into that private island lifestyle or they want that retreat, this is a good one to remember. Again, you can only reach it by boat or the little seaplane that you can see in the bottom of the picture. So it's very exclusive and very private. Okay, so we're moving down now and we've made it to Key West. So we're at the bottom of the Keys now. And I like to include this picture so you can really get a feel for how big it is. And when I say big, I mean small. It's only 4 miles long by 2 miles wide. And like the rest of the US, it's set on this grid pattern. So it's easy to navigate. I mean, realistically, you only go left or you go right most of the time. So you won't get lost. And now I'm not sure if my writing's too small, but over to the left, down the middle, you'll see Duval Street. Now that is the main drag. So that is where you will find the nightlife, the pubs, the restaurants, and everything else. And then there are lots of fantastic little hotels dotted around the place. But I will also show you this overview just so you can get another feel from it from a bird's eye view, different perspective. Again, you still have some lovely beaches down here as well. So if you only travel to Key West, you can still get that city experience and also that beach experience as well. Now, it's very easy to walk around, as I said, it's set on that grid pattern. But of course, if you are getting a bit tired or you've had too much for lunch, you can always hop on one of these little trams, and they're a great way to kind of wander around the island as well. And again, you've also got fantastic bike hire everywhere. It seems to rent bicycles, so you'll never be caught short. It's a wonderful place to, a way to kind of experience it as well. Faster than walking, and it just gives you a bit more of a sense of adventure. Now, in terms of cultural pursuits, you've got many museums, many fantastic museums. We've got the Custom House, the Key West Shipwreck Museum, Lighthouse and Keeper's Quarters, and of course Truman Little White House. Now, Ernest Hemingway was our most famous inhabitant in the Keys, so we of course had to turn his home into a museum. I feel like that's what we do all over the world. But you can go here and learn about his fantastic works, his literary works, but also about his personal life, which I have to say is quite mysterious. He had 6 wives that all died. He must have been doing something wrong, that's the least I can say. And he had a tremendous amount of cats, and all these cats have 6 toes. Also a bit freaky and a bit weird, but we're all drawn to something a bit odd, aren't we? So everybody loves going here. And right now, at the last count, I think there were 56 cats living in and around the property. Obviously, there's been a pandemic, so we may have lost a few and we may have gained a few more. But it's a fantastic place to go visit, as well as all the other museums on Key West. So even though a lot of people come to Key West for the nightlife and to experience the buzz and the atmosphere around here, there are definitely fantastic cultural opportunities that you can get involved in. Now, we must also mention the nightly sunset sails. These are absolutely something I recommend to everybody, whether you hire a private charter, a little boat, a catamaran, or you join others on a tall ship. It's a wonderful way to kind of see Key West from the sea. And also the sunsets are spectacular here. So a cool thing to note is that when you're off Key West, you're actually closer to Cuba than you are to Miami. So it's a bit of a weird perspective going on there, but you've got these vast sunsets and they turn this beautiful purpley orange, and it's absolutely spectacular. So a sunset sail is definitely recommended. But again, I suppose the sea is not for everybody. And if you do have people that would rather enjoy the sunset from land, the Mallory Square Sunset Celebration is well worth a visit. Now, this happens every day, every night, without fail. The community, the locals and the tourists all gather together in Mallory Square, and they wait and watch the sun set. And then there's a huge applause goes up as the sun is set. But you'll find tightrope walkers here. You'll find fantastic street food. There will be men with fiery hoops and cats jumping through them. It's a very much festival kind of vibe, and it's like a very addictive kind of atmosphere. There's a real great sense of celebration and kind of community when you join everyone on that quay in Mallory Square. So the sun sets and you can go and explore different street acts or stalls, and everyone seems to melt into their different nightly activities. So whether you want to go to Sloppy Joe's bar, which is a pub, or bar I should say, that was a favourite of Ernest Hemingway's, or you can go fine dining. We've got some fantastic restaurants. Again, as I said, the seafood is wonderful, but so is everything else. It's absolutely delicious. You've also got wonderful live acts. So you'll always kind of stumble upon lots of different, there'll be pubs down alleyways and then live music popping up and festivals. We have a great LGBTQ community as well. So there's drag shows. You never quite know where you're going to end up in Key West. And I think that's what's so addictive to people. They go there and they don't necessarily know what they're going to find, what they're going to experience, but they're guaranteed a good time. Again, this just kind of proves the point. Now, I don't know how many of you could recognize Ernest Hemingway if you saw him, but this is what he looks like, because this is the Ernest Hemingway Lookalike Festival. So I think they're all doing a rather good job, because I think they look identical. But again, it's just a flavor of the quirky and unique types of things that goes on in Key West. And something to note is that we have so many festivals, they're always going on. So if you send someone, if you sent someone to Key West last week, they won't have the same experience as someone that goes next week, which I think is a real selling point for the Keys. Now, we have a full calendar of events on our website, and I've got some links to show you later, but it's always worth checking that in advance if you're talking to a customer about them traveling to the Keys. It's always good to kind of see what events are going on, and you can always persuade them to go with the kind of quirky things that are going on when they plan to travel. So the Ernest Hemingway Festival is one of them. The Underwater Music Festival is another. It is as balmy as it sounds, but people have invented these underwater musical instruments, and they go and they play sort of whole concerts under there, and you can snorkel and dive while listening to this fantastic music under the water. I know it sounds like something out of Atlantis or Ariel, but it's so quirky and cool. So again, just to reiterate, there's definitely an event for everybody when you go to Key West. Now, again, I've just included this fantastic picture of the sunset views. As you can see, you've got many restaurants that have this kind of style, and bars where they've got big pontoons that come out into the ocean. And then you can just imagine with the sunset, it's beautiful orange and purples and reds, and it's just really spectacular. You do feel like you're almost at the end of the world, but it's really wonderful. Now, I will just talk to you about some of the hotels down in Key West. So hotels in the area, you've got the New Capitana, which is a luxury boutique hotel, which has great waterfront views, and it also has a mixture of suites and cottages available. There are also the Kimpton Hotel Collection. Now, these offer a great mixture of accommodation. They focus more on a boutique angle. So a lot of the Kimpton hotels are original kind of quirky old buildings that have been turned into accommodation. So they'll be like the original barbershops or the original casinos, and they'll have been turned into little boutique hotels. So they pride themselves on keeping many of those original characteristics. So you'll, but definitely when you stay with the Kimpton Collection, you'll be staying somewhere that has a story attached to it. So it adds a little element and a little bit of depth to your stay. But again, you've got sort of lots of cute little small hotels and guest houses, and lots of the bigger luxury ones as well in Key West. So there is a lot of variety, but just so you've got an overview of what's available when you get to the bottom of the Keys. And now kind of we're nearing the end now, but I always recommend you, if people have a day to spare or they're looking for trips to do when they're at the bottom of the Keys, a visit to Fort Jefferson or the Dry Tortugas National Park is a must. So the Dry Tortugas National Park was originally a fortress, hence Fort Jefferson, and it was built to protect the Florida Keys from their enemies, pirates, marauders, anything. So it was the first port of call, basically, where you could kind of see if anyone was coming to invade. So it's a place full of history. You've got some fantastic museums on the little island. It takes you about 2 hours by boat to get out there, or 20 minutes by seaplane, depending on timing and budgets, but it's accessible either way. And you go there, you've got some wonderful restaurants, of course, some great, you know, the history there is just wonderful to kind of go and experience. And again, as you can see, the beautiful shallow water. So you've got lots of snorkeling potential, diving again. So you could really spend a whole day there. And if people do have an extra bit of time to spend, always recommend that they take the day trip to Fort Jefferson, because you don't want them to miss out. Now, again, as I mentioned earlier, these are just a few of our very useful links. So we have a really great website, and that's flower-keys.com. And so you've got full brochures and newsletters there. You've got kind of traveler guides, where to go. If you've got anyone interested in weddings or LGBTQ visits and things like that, there's so much information on the website. The calendar, again, as I mentioned, is very useful just for planning itineraries and that kind of thing. But of course, if you have any questions, I'd absolutely be over the moon if you sent me an email. I'm really happy to help. But the website, if you're in a quick fix and you can't get hold of me, it has a lot of great information on there. And then lastly, we also have the Florida Keys and Key West, or the Key Lime Academy, which is our online training program. Now, I know Leah, I think, is going to send you all an email with a link to it after this, but it goes through basically everything that I've taught to you today, but also a lot more detail as well. So I thoroughly recommend going through it. You then become a graduate of the Key Lime Academy, but it's also a great thing to revisit if you kind of can't remember a few things I was talking about, or you wanted a bit more detail. Definitely give the online training a go. I've made it interactive and fun, so you should enjoy it. And also, it is in Italian. Our new one is in Italian, so there should be no language barrier. I'm sure you're all hearing me perfectly fine, but in case you've missed anything or I spoke too quickly, definitely worth giving it a visit. And I think that is everything. I'll stop sharing my screen now, but before I do, if you need my contact details, It's fenella@axistravelmarketing.com. And I think I've got plenty of time. I think I've got plenty of time to answer your questions. So if you do have any, put them in the box and I will be happy to answer them for you.
Okay, Fenella, we have a couple of questions. Just let me tell you.
Fire away. Hopefully I can.
Okay. Alessandra, would it possible to have the list of the hotel you mentioned and included the resorts, the historical sites?
Yes, of course. Yes, absolutely. So actually worth noting is on the handouts that you can see in the webinar page, I've uploaded there for you 3 itineraries. So that gives you a bit of an idea of what you can put together and how you can sort out the holidays for customers. But also there should be a fact sheet in there. If it's not, I can forward it to you. And that breaks down the key activities that are available on each island. So it's perfect if you want to print it out and pin it up. If you have anyone ask you questions, you can briefly look at it and be like, oh, I know that that activity is there and this island has that. But yes, we do have a full property list and I can forward that to you as well. And it has contact details for all the hotels. So if you want to contact people directly, you can. So I will make sure I send that to you guys.
Sure, sure. And the last one is how many days do you suggest to stay at the Keys to visit the most important things?
Okay, so I always recommend 10 days to 2 weeks, realistically. I know a lot of people have this image in their head that they just need to get to Key West and that's it. But realistically, as you will know now that I've taught you, that there's so much to see in each island as you go down. So if I was to break it up, I would kind of arrange 4 days in Key West, because obviously you go out in the nighttime, you get a bit hungover, you need time to recover, to go see some of the museums, but also have, you know, multiple nights experiencing the bars, the nightlife, the live events and the festivals. And then I would always have kind of 4 other days, sort of you do 2 in Isla Morada or 2 in Key Largo. And then, you know, if you've got a spare day, definitely Lower Keys. So 2 weeks if you've got lots of time, 10 days at a push. But if people are doing a massive kind of tour around Florida, you need a couple of days in Key West and then definitely kind of stop 1 day in Isla Morada or 1 in Key Largo. I hope that answers it for you.
Okay. About the scuba diving, which PADI certificate is allowed to dive to see Duane Reich, open water, 27 meter, or advanced certificate?
So depending on who you book in your diving with, your excursion, and any lots of the tour operators will be able to advise you which kind of certificates is best. Off the top of my head, I don't know specifically which is the right one, but there are plenty of places that will be able to help. And definitely on the website, I think we've got information on that as well. But I can look that up for you. I'll make a note.
Okay, I will send you the list of the questions, and so you can directly answer to.
Yes, that would be great. So that I don't want anyone to kind of not get the most out of this.
Okay. Okay, I think we finished. I don't see any question. Let me see. Like how to get to Pigeon Key from the overseas road. Could you kindly repeat the best period to visit, please?
Yes, so the peak times are from end of November through to February. You've got the most fantastic weather then, but they are peak as well because lots of people, school children on holidays. So they are very busy times, best times to go, but also from April through to early June, equally fantastic, and is just a little bit less busy because the children aren't on holidays, if that makes sense. So from November all the way through to early June is perfect. You've just got hurricane season from late June to November. Obviously, you know, many people still travel then, it's perfectly fine, but it's just something to bear in mind.
Just a consideration from Leonora, who say, hello, I didn't get how to get to Pigeon Key from the overseas road. I made it several times and never knew.
Oh, okay. So it should, it's pretty, the road continues all the way through the islands, so it should just be a question of just turning off at the right mile marker. But again, as I said before, if you don't necessarily know the mile markers to turn off at, that could definitely be a sticking point. but also a lot of them from Key West, you can definitely get little boats up into the lower Keys. But yes, if you do go again, I would recommend, and I'm sorry you missed it.
Okay. Okay, I think we finished. No more questions, and people thank you very much, and me too, for your nice presentation. Fenella, I will send you the list of the participants, today's participants, and also the chat with the questions. Okay?
Thank you guys so much for coming. I really appreciate it, and have a lovely weekend, and I'll be in touch if you have any questions later.
Of course, of course.
Brilliant.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Bye.
Bye, bye, bye Fenella. Grazie a tutti per l'attenzione come sempre e vi rimando al prossimo appuntamento che è il 1° di giugno con Philadelphia e quindi vi auguro un buon fine settimana a tutti. Grazie di tutto e a presto. Ciao.